I'm Madhulika, and I welcome you all to yet another Zoom webinar organized by Jungle Bells. So let's see what is Jungle Bells. Jungle Bells is a Pune-based venture exclusively designed by leading women Aarti Karve and Hemangi Batta. What we do, so we conduct women-only trips to all the wildlife destinations across India. Also, we conduct in and around nature-based trips around Pune. So the main objective of our venture is to promote wildlife tourism, wildlife conservation, and wildlife awareness. We also work in collaboration with various ventures. So we work with In Search Outdoors, Arandmai Wilderness Safaris, etc. We have upcoming tour schedules as follow. We have Jim Corbett tour in June month. Monsoon Tadoba tour is there. Panchet nature tour is in May. So we request all of you to please feel free to connect with us on 7756081922. You can also connect us on our social media and community group. The webinar is supported by Sanjeevani Developers. Let's see what Sanjeevani Developers does. It is established in 2004. The Sanjeevani team is now 20 years young, as they believe business is something more than just making money, and every new day is a new opportunity for them to create something better, which for them is a home for their clients. Today, Sanjeevani Group is engaged in homemaking, redevelopment, eateries, workspaces, and wildlife conservation too. Mr. Sanjay Deshpande is the founder of this brand. He himself is a civil engineer with 35 years of experience and an environmentalist with a deep passion for wildlife. In line, next are Mr. Rohit Deshpande, Mr. Rohan Deshpande, and Mr. Rohit Mahajan to take the Sanjeevani Group ahead. Sanjeevani Group is part of many initiatives regarding nature conservation and is proudly associated with Jungle Bells. Before we begin, I request all of you to please switch off your cameras and turn off your microphones so that we can have a fruitful experience of today's webinar. So today's topic is the conservation lens. And today we have our wildlife guest speaker, Ms. Bhavna Menon. Let's talk about her work profile. Bhavna Menon has worked as the program manager with a non-profit organization in the field of wildlife conservation for 14 years, wherein she was involved in conservation outreach, capacity building with the frontline staff, and creation of alternate livelihoods. Today, she works as a freelancer writer, contributing to different publications with a strong focus on covering conservation stories and people who are making a difference on the ground. She has also taken up the role of a consultant with different NGOs working in the field of conservation and sustainable livelihoods while helping the Forest Department in the Central India landscape with conservation outreach. So this is all about a flourishing journey. Without a further ado, let's get started. I request Hemangi ma'am to please take the conversation ahead with Bhavna ma'am. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, hi, Bhavna. Am I audible?
Yes. Hi, good morning.
Good morning. So, Bhavna, first of all, we eternally thank you because the kind of communication we had, it was so fast and you really accepted it. And you were forthcoming to share your, experiences with us. So the primary objective of this webinars that we do is for awareness. We want people to know that how women in this field or anyone for that matter works, really with amazing efforts so that they can make some change in the kind of environment or conservation that we call.
Right.
So we thank you so much. Your work, I was going through your profile, I was going through your Insta page, FB page. So it's really commendable. So let's also let other people also know a little bit about what you are doing and what you're all into. So first to start, without further ado, let's start with the first question. What is a connection with wildlife? Like, how did you get into this, and how did you start this journey?
Sure, thank you, Amandi. So basically, I think my journey has been there. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay,
yes.
great. So I think, it sounds very cliched because I would say that it started when I was 8 years old. Everybody says, childhood, and it was always in my blood. But I genuinely felt that, whenever I used to go to, and my father used to always say this, that when I take you to a forest, your entire mood changes, you're happy, you're just, full of light. So the first time I went to a tiger reserve was when I was 8 years old, and that was Kanha Tiger Reserve. And there was no looking back for me, I feel, after that. I mean,
Okay.
I used to come back home. Every time I came back home from a tiger reserve, and all my family holidays were to a tiger reserve. For my poor parents, they were not allowed to
Wow.
plan any other holiday. I
Okay.
used to force them to take me to a forest every time. Cut to when I started doing my journalism, my master's in journalism in Xavier's. Um, the founder, Nikhil Nagle, who founded Last Wilderness Foundation, he had that time sent feelers to media students to
Okay.
make a website, actually. Not even conservation, for to just build a media website about different national parks and sanctuaries. So we started
All right.
traveling across the tiger reserves, a few of us. And that's when the Bandhavgarh field director said, "Why don't you also start work?" There was a lot of
Mm.
conflict in Bandhavgarh at that point in time. It was
Yes.
I think 2011, 12.
Okay.
And that's when we started the first Village Kids Awareness Program, which we ran for almost 8 years and
Okay.
covered 96 villages.
Wow.
So, yeah, it was love at first sight. I always say this, I had not seen a tiger till I was almost 23 years old. But when I saw it, I was just like, Khatam, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I know, I know. That's amazing. That's good to know. So, how has your work graph been, if you want to just summarize a bit, post Bandhavgarh? I mean, when you started work there.
Sure, sure. So Bandhavgarh was the first tiger reserve that we started working in, and like I
Right.
said, the Village Kids Awareness Program ran for 8 years. But parallelly, we started work in Panna with the hunting community, traditional hunting community called the Pardis, and
Parties.
we started our work in 2015 with those children, Pardi kids, mainly in the hostels that was developed by the Forest Department. And धीरे धीरे करके we involved the youth also. We started financing the children's education, and we started a very interesting initiative, Himangi, called the Walk with the
Yeah.
Pardavis. So that was the
Okay.
first of its kind. It's a very unique concept, and I
Hmm.
think it's still like now, of course, a lot of models have been developed, but that was the first of its kind walk with the traditional community. That
Oh,
has a lot of stigma attached to
of
them
course.
even to this date, unfortunately, after so many years of them giving up hunting. Especially the population in Panna has given up tiger hunting completely.
Right.
But
Yeah.
even now there's so much stigma attached to it, but we are working on it. I mean, there are the LWF is still working on it, and I'm wherever I can, I keep talking to people about the parties and how
Right.
amazing the kids really are and the adults are. So that was a lovely concept that we developed. And
Right.
then after the party walk, we started working with the Bega community in Kanha with the traditional
Yeah.
jewelry,
Right.
so as a means of alternate livelihood. So these are some of the projects I was involved in LWF, and after LWF, I've been working with a beautiful organization called Earth Focus Foundation, again
Right.
in Kanha Tiger Reserve, and they've adopted various Anganwadis and primary schools in the buffer zone to build foundational literacy with the children.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with specific emphasis on maths and Hindi. And they're
Okay.
also building a biodiversity curriculum so that it's inculcated into their lives from the beginning instead of having short-term programs on conservation outreach.
Right.
Inculcated into their lives from the beginning itself.
Right.
So
Right.
that's a great project. And there's
Yeah.
another nature-based livelihood where they're working with the Bega community members and
Right.
converting barren land into cultivable land so that the people, the migration from the villages to the cities can be reduced, and
Okay.
people can stay within the village, eat from their own farmland, and also sell to the resorts around. That's the whole concept behind it. Vegetables
It's
and all.
basically for the livelihood. I mean, encouragement
Yes.
for the livelihood there. Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
and
Nice.
traditional millets and the
Yeah.
vegetables basically.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Pashu Pakshi, I have recently worked with them also. They're doing a beautiful, there's a beautiful shop called Crafts of Conservation in Bandhavgarh. If anybody
Hmm.
is visiting, if Jungle Wealth is
Yeah.
visiting. And they've tied up with 12 NGOs across India, and it supports about 2,000 artisans living
Oh,
around protected areas. Yeah,
okay. Okay. Okay.
so this has been
Mm.
what I've been up
Wow.
to.
That's no, no, this is not at all. I think just undevotionally, you're doing something for the, I mean, sorry, not for selfish reasons, you're just giving the entire thing to the forest. That itself is a big thing, because I think here I would like to just bring to a point that we all visit the forest, I'm sure, for photography, for our own whatever purpose, just to see wildlife in nature and things like that. But once you're back, I think it gives so much to us. You're really filled with oxygen. You're filled with,
Yes.
detox from any kind of this thing. The digital detox, or whatever you say, mobile, nothing works there,
Yeah.
network, and you're disconnected. And I think you get your me time. You're completely
Yes.
lost. And I feel forests every day gives you something different. Like the earlier day, it might share with you something completely, it's a silent one, but next day it
Yeah.
comes up different. So it's that kind of, it teaches you a lot of things like patience,
Lord.
and lots, just be in your this thing. So I think if wildlife, nature, forest is giving you so much back, I think it becomes a tiny wee bit of responsibility for us also. So
Absolutely.
to give something back. So that's what you've been doing, and you've been doing relentlessly. So really, hats off to you. I feel at the end of
Thank
the
you.
show, I will definitely put it up saying if someone wants to connect with you in some way to give, lend their support, they obviously can
Sure.
come forth. Yeah. So we'll move on to
Sure.
the next one. So what? This is a very common question, but we would like to know. As a woman, it's a too cliche. What are the challenges? But I would want to know what are the challenges overall you face in this type of work. I just don't want to bring women ke hai. There are a lot of maybe physical, not too physical, but little bit in some form. But
Yeah.
overall challenges. What do you see?
It's a very good question and very interesting question because wildlife now has become, something everybody wants to be part of. It's
Right.
become, without being offensive, it's become sort of fashionable to be part of the conservation community, the wildlife
Right.
community. But I would like to share that it's not at all glamorous,
Yes.
as is seen in movies. It's not
Correct.
about camouflage clothes and beautiful cameras. It's a
Right.
huge mental draining. It's emotionally draining. I think
Right.
I've had a lot of challenges myself. I would speak about it myself. I've had multiple
Sure.
breakdowns while working for conservation. I've
Right.
doubted myself. Of course, I faced a little bit of patriarchy in the beginning when I started because the place where we work, a woman from the city, what will she teach us? And younger than us, so
Right.
that of course was a challenge that of course faded over a period of time. But when you're working with people on a continued basis, you have to put yourself on the back burner so that you
Absolutely.
can deal with these challenges. But when you do put yourself on the back burner, you're like so drained at the end
Yeah.
of it that
Okay.
you need to be very careful about that, otherwise the burnout is very easy. So take out time for yourself, which I
Correct.
started doing now. Start doing
Right.
other things apart from wildlife. Don't always be connected to it. You need to cut off, you need to turn off at
Right.
some point of time.
Right, right. So here I would like to ask you, in challenges, are you emotionally connected, or you, as you said, drained off by a lot of things that you see, which could have been better? So do they, have you started secluding yourself otherwise like this also, or it still, touches your heart? Because for me also, if I see any animal, I'm like, oh God, what in the wildlife or even urban? So how does it affect you? I mean, do you really, or now you've started keeping it at a bay? Or
It's been tough because I work with people who become like family, like
yeah,
the parties and the beggars, and even the village kids. Like even right now, we have done a fire awareness program with the villagers, and some
right.
children recognized me from the previous programs. And it just
Okay.
made me like I had tears in my eyes, but I was like, don't get emotionally attached. Yeah, but it happens.
Yeah,
It's
correct.
too organic. You can't. We as
Yeah,
human beings do tend to. But yeah, now I'm consciously like trying not to get emotionally attached because
right.
if something happens, then it directly affects you.
Yeah, amazing. So, again, a very, very broad question. What is conservation for you? I mean, we hear people working in conservation. I work here. I contribute in some way. Like we at Jungle Bells, we also say that we, have a small part to play in the conservation. That, but we ourselves, we cannot get onto the field. So we rather support people who
Right.
would work there. So like we provide sweaters to the gypsy drivers and the this thing guides, or gum boots or repellents, or generate livelihood. Like we have a lot of biodiversity spots in and around Pune. So big one, we we kind of donate the used clothes and shoes which are in good condition,
Oh,
or
lovely.
appeal people to buy from people who are doing something like souvenirs who are locally made there. So this is
Right.
all what we are doing, awareness. So this is our bit. But what would be conservation for you, on a broader term?
So conservation for me is beyond wildlife safari, like exactly what you mentioned. It would
Right,
be connecting with locals on the ground, because
right,
ultimately, if we are looking for long-term protection of our wilderness spaces with our growing
right,
population and development, those are the only people who can really help us save forests or protect forests, or uh, they are the real green soldiers apart from the frontline forest department staff, of course. So conservation
right.
for me would be connecting with people. It could be just having a cup of tea, getting off your safari vehicle and having a cup of tea, listening to them, talking to
Mhm.
them. Like
Correct,
exactly like you said, buying local souvenirs, supporting alternate livelihoods. Um,
correct,
some organizations in the past have also, contributed torches to forest chockies. For me, that is conservation. It doesn't have
right.
to be a huge amount of money or going especially
Exactly.
for forest. It should be the little thing. It could be just a conversation also, because it matters a lot to the community member thinking कि oh वो दीदी आए थे गाड़ी में बैठ के लेकिन उन्होंने टाइम निकाला, because I remember I was sitting in a Bega village, and some guests were just going past the village. I sort of stopped the car and I said, would you like to see a Bega wedding? They said, no, we didn't even know there is a different sort of a wedding in the tribal community. So they came in, they blessed the bride,
Oh,
and
wow.
yeah, they sat and had the wedding dinner. And the entire village remembered for the next 2 years that, some people had come and they blessed our daughter, and she's so happy. And of course, if we protect the forest, ऐसे और लोग आएंगे, खुश होंगे हमारा जंगल देख के. So that
Right.
is
Yeah.
directly or indirectly, that is conservation.
Yeah. Correct. Correct. Oh, that's wonderful. That's a good point. I mean, you've made. So, which part of the job you love the most? So, like you said, you interact with the villagers, or you're doing something, or you're maybe giving a training, or sharing some this thing. So, what is the part you love the most out of your work?
I think meeting people, spending time with them, because I do a fair bit of writing when I'm not
Yeah.
on field. So getting
Correct.
human interest stories, like knowing about their lives, just entering a house and sitting and talking to them, even with the forest department. Like I love meeting the on-ground fire watchers, the forest guards. They have some beautiful stories to tell about their
Correct.
lives.
Correct.
There was one particular incident, and I mean, this is the part I love the most, because it humanizes everybody, right? Like
Correct.
अभी क्या होता है, अभी when some incident happens, we immediately blame the forest department, and we're like, अरे कुछ नहीं कर
Absolutely.
रहा है, कोई कुछ नहीं कर रहा, कुछ नहीं कर रहा. But when you go on field and you hear about how they're also human beings. I mean, I remember meeting this
Absolutely.
forest guard in one chowki in Bandhavgarh,
Hmm.
and he had a small bulb outside his camp, and he was alone because his there was no one else at the camp at that time. I said,
Hmm.
भैया आप रोज ऐसे लाइट पूरा टाइम सो जाते हो, लाइट लगाकर आपको नींद आती है? सर मैम क्या करूं, अकेला हूं इतने बड़े जंगल में, एक लाइट का तो सहारा है.
Yeah.
That
Correct.
touched me. I was like, oh my god, these are the stories people need to know, and this is my favorite part, to know about their lives, to get a peek inside their
Wonderful.
lives.
Yeah, correct, correct. So I always say people go for animals. I mean, obviously, in forests, you do go for wildlife and animals and birds, but there are also these people who coexist with them, who also are living as a part of the entire
Yes.
forest, and they need cognizance in some way because they're putting so much of risk at their this thing. They're protecting it. They're going all the way there. So I'm sure this human stories of jungle. I mean, your writer will come to that, but definitely they're worth listening and listening to. So,
Yeah.
which I would like to ask you, which all forests have you covered till now? I mean, where all have you been?
Central India, of course, Kanha, Panna, Pench, Bandhavgarh. But I've
Yeah,
been to Corbett, I've been to Ranthambore, I've been down south to Periyar and Parambikulam. I've been Where else have I been? I've been to, when I was very small, I've been to Simlipal. I don't remember that much.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
counted
Yeah.
for
Okay.
it.
That's great. Um, See, obviously, all forests are nice and they're beautiful. But something is dearest to you. Like for me, if you say I love Kana topography and Panna
Yeah,
and Corbett for that matter. So which one would be dearest to you? The
Bandhavgarh.
forest, Bandhavgarh. Okay,
Because
you've been
that's where I
associated
started.
started and you've been associated for a long time there.
Yeah, like I like to
Yeah,
believe that that's where I grew up because I was 21 when I started working there, and now I'm in my late 30s. So it's been a lot
yeah,
of time in that forest.
correct, correct. Wonderful. Uh, which are the, I would just like to ask you, which are the major hurdles that you foresee in wildlife conservation ahead in years to come? So, one, according to just to this thing, we often talk about these, and at our place also, or we brainstorm, and then what can be the hurdle. So, one of them we see as the coexistence, that we need to educate the villagers and close by settlements about it. The highway kills is another issue which is not yet come up, but I'm sure it's a bleeding thing because we see so many wildlife being being killed on the highways or on the roads. So corridors is the main thing. So these are a couple of them. So what, according to you, as you work there, you're into
Yeah.
that thing, could be those challenges foreseen in the years to come?
More than hurdles, I think what we need to strengthen is again working with at a more larger level with the community members
Right.
because creation of more alternate livelihoods for them, creation
Correct.
of more job opportunities for them in the mainstream society, even if it's not alternate. Because how often can you go on saying save the tiger, save? They need to earn. Like in
Yeah.
case of the parties, uh, it's easy to say mat maro apne hathiyar chhod dena, but then when it comes to mainstream society, how many people will accept them and giving them a job? The tag will
Right.
always be there. Or with a bega, you have to be super patient. You have to be super,
Right.
it's a very shy community, so you can't work for a year and say, "Arey, this community is too shy, I can't work with them." So I think the
Hmm.
hurdle I see is the persistence. Sometimes it's easier to give up rather than work with a tough community, but it's important to be persistent
Correct.
and think about more ways in which we can involve the community members in conservation. Like they've already started
Right.
helping, how to
Right.
further strengthen that.
Correct, correct. Oh, that's wonderful. So it's a very different aspect that you gave because, frankly, telling you, so many people that we've spoken before who've come on
Yeah,
our platform, we always speak about like the issues that I discussed, like corridor or
yeah,
coexistence or things like that. But something that you say that these community needs to be strengthened. They need to
yeah,
have the livelihood themselves, alternate livelihood, because we also had thought about bringing those community, a few, the younger generation, into urbanized, in the sense, cities for work. But do you think that would also be a solution to this, getting those younger boys and girls to work in the cities?
absolutely, absolutely. We
Yeah,
if we have a consensual conversation, of course, for that we need to have a very deep conversation with them, saying
correct.
that we're not taking you away from the fabric of your being
Right,
right now, but again,
right.
this will provide you an opportunity in mainstream society, which will help you, uh, provide for your family, so to say, without even harming the forest.
Correct, correct. Yeah. All right. Uh, so we'll come to a very different question. So, how is Bhavna? Apart from wildlife, what does she do?
Oh
Your
no, very
hobbies?
difficult.
So I'm sure it's very difficult to separate Bhavna from wildlife, and your continuously mind is
Precisely.
yeah. But otherwise, how are you as a person? What are your hobbies? What do you do in your free time?
Yeah. So I, of course, love writing, not just about wildlife, but
Okay,
about different issues. And some I publish, some I keep to myself. But writing is a passion.
right.
I love traveling. I love traveling. Um,
Okay,
Even if it's in the city or it's outskirts of the city, that's one thing. Music, of course. And
right.
yeah, I think this is what, and walks. I love walking and exploring different places. So I think this would define me as a person. I'm a completely outdoors person. I can't sit at home for long.
Okay, okay. So do you also do photography or you're not into that much?
A little bit. I'm a very amateur photographer.
Okay.
But whatever catches my fancy, I try to capture it the best I can.
Okay, okay. So when you're working in these forests, like Bandhavgarh, you said, so have you encountered with a tiger very closely anytime, or how often do you see them, or how is your luck? So people want to know, each time they go to the forest, अरे tiger दिखना ही चाहिए, but things don't work out like that. I mean, वो अपने
Yeah,
मर्जी का मालिक है, It's
absolutely.
like, yeah. So do you want to share a few incidences where, you with your
Sure.
encounter with the tiger.
Sure, sure. There's so many. And I used to always say that tiger is like electrol. Every time we used to feel tired and dispirited, saying, "Oh my
Yeah.
God, it's so hot." There used to be this gorgeous sighting suddenly, and you're like, "Oh, wow! This is why we do what we do because such a beautiful creature." I remember it was
Right.
in Kanha, and we had not had a sighting that morning at all, and we were okay. We were enjoying the forest. We were talking, and we were just exiting the park, and suddenly from the bushes on the right, this head appears, and we're like, "Arey, arey, arey, that's a tiger, that's a tiger." Even the driver was not prepared, and then he came back, he reversed, and
Right.
she was coming out of the bushes very calm. There was no other vehicle in sight, which is the most best part of the sighting.
Yeah. I mean,
And she
yeah.
came out of the
Correct.
bushes, and she stood near a tree, and we
Right.
thought she's going to mark or she's going to sit down there, and she started doing making this sound, and when she started doing that, one baby came out, another baby came out, another baby came out, and there were four of them on the
Oh,
road.
my God. Okay. Wow.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
like,
And it was beautiful because it was unhurried. You could hear her, the baby is making that typical toddler sounds, and
right.
the,
Oh,
and the mom
so
is
sweet.
licking them. And then they, of course, disappeared into the forest. They didn't sit for long. But I think that was a beautiful sighting that I'll always remember.
Okay, that's amazing. So you made a very right point. We always wish that apni gypsy honi chahiye because shant, the
Yeah,
silence with the this thing because otherwise there's a utter chaos. I totally
yeah.
believe that everyone should get to see a tiger, but the chaos that happens after that, people rushing to and fro. But
Too
this is
much.
a amazing, yeah. So there are a lot of women now who are working in wildlife in some way or the other. It can be through photography awareness, or it can be, like you are working for conservation. There are other ecologists in Pune. We are a lot of them who work, like someone works on ants, someone on owls. So there are a lot of people contributing. So, what are your views on this? I mean, do they have if someone wants to take up as a career or come into this kind of a field, is it now open enough for women, and is it doable in terms of
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. It's the same for me. In the last 15, 16 years that I've been part of it, I've not faced any unsafe situation because I've
yeah,
been a woman. In fact, rural areas are so much more safer than cities, I would
safer,
say. Yeah.
correct,
And the other thing is, a lot of people ask me saying, do we need to have a certain education for it? Only then can we enter the field. I would say absolutely not, because I was terrible at science and maths, and I could never take this up as a scientist or a biologist. But there are so many other aspects to this social, like the sociological angle, working with people,
mm,
anthropology. Even if you're just passionate, if you're a writer, you're a photographer, everybody can make a huge difference. You don't have to have
right,
the right credentials for it, if whatever right
correct,
means. You can just
correct.
be someone who loves the forest. But yeah, again, like I said, you have to be extremely patient and persistent.
Persistent in this thing. All right. We come to the last question here. Any message to the audience? And if someone wants to come ahead and give a helping hand to you,
Right.
or in some way or the other, how can they do this?
Yeah, sure. So I'll speak about first how they can help. So
Yeah,
you know that all NGOs need financial help once in a while.
correct,
Like Earth Focus is of course doing such a fabulous job, but everybody needs a helping hand. If anybody
right.
knows of good CSRs or corporate sponsors who will be willing to work in a remote geography, because geography is a huge hurdle for NGOs, because everybody
Hmm.
wants to work in a very urban geography. A lot of the CSRs. If you can
Hmm.
get some lovely people to come and contribute and support the work done by Earth Focus, that'll be great. Um,
Right.
for Pashu Pakshi, if people can support responsible souvenirs, that will be wonderful, because it's being made by community members across uh, protected areas. It's
All
not
right.
products from Delhi or Bombay, it's local.
Right.
So every time
Okay.
you buy a product, you're contributing to the livelihood of a community member.
Okay.
But yeah, for the overall audience, I would like to say that when you go with Jungle Bells to a tiger reserve or a protected area, please do take out some time wherever it's possible. If there are ecotourism activities or it's a village visit walk, local cuisine, please indulge in it once, because they will also boost the morale of the local community members,
Correct.
apart from giving them a source of livelihood, I would say. So take some
Correct.
time out and meet the backbone of the forest. That's the people.
Right, right. So you mentioned about Pashu Pakshi here and buying souvenirs. So, do all the forests, not all, actually, maybe the central India have this kind of outlets of Pashu Pakshi
Yes,
outside this thing? All right.
yes. They
Okay.
have learning centers where you can sign up for workshops as well,
Oh,
and yeah, and make the jewelry, or not jewelry but keychains and toys and all. You can also engage with the community members to make products.
all right, all right. And one interesting this thing, I just thought you're right, you said, and few things have been published. So,
Yeah.
do you have a blog or a book or some way that if someone wants to, go through them or, go through those experiences, so how can they refer to it?
I mostly I had started a blog, but I don't maintain it. But
Okay,
I post mostly on my Instagram. Whatever
okay,
else gets published is there on my Instagram and
okay,
Facebook
okay,
as well.
all right. And your handle is B_Menon. Is that right?
Yes, B
Yeah.
Menon 86.
Okay. 86. Yeah. So if someone wants to go through them, please go through her writings as well. Uh,
And please give feedback.
yeah. So there are a few questions, two, three down, which let us see if one
Okay.
minute. The first question was Akshita. She is asking, how can one experience walk with Paradis? Is there any specific way to reserve a spot for me on a given date?
Yeah, Akshita. So you can contact Last Wilderness Foundation. They are there on Instagram, and you can DM them saying that you want to do a walk and the number of people who want to get involved, and they'll give you the details for the same.
Okay, that gives it. What's the best to take? What's best takeaway for yourself from the activities you do for the forest?
What's best takeaway for myself?
Yes.
Don't know. I think it just makes me extremely happy. I sleep very well at night after working with community members. It's a sense of satisfaction, I think.
Right, right. And you mentioned tribes like Baiga and their shyness. Is the government doing anything specific programs from the perspective to have a dialogue with them?
Thank you for this question. It's a great question. The Bega Jewelry project that we had started was with the Forest Department. It was their
Hmm.
initiative, which is, of course, a government body.
Hmm.
Uh, and they only helped us at our dialogue with the community members. Apart from that, of course, the newer generation is not as shy, because there's so many conservation outreach programs happening with the kids that they're part of. So, that's changing the mindset a bit.
Right, right. Okay. Akshita again asked, can I engage with the local communities in one of the Pashu Pakshi workshops and get to know more about
Yes,
them?
absolutely. So, Akshita, thank you. They have learning centers, like I was telling Himangi, in Pench, in Panna, Kanha, and where else is it? Panna, Kanha, and yes, Pench also. Sorry, and there they have workshops, and you can go and sit with them and make whatever products that they are making. These are learning centers, and in Bandhavgarh, you can go and buy a lot of these. There's a standalone and first of its kind Crafts for Conservation outlet in Bandhavgarh where you can buy the responsible souvenirs that have been made by these ladies in the different learning centers in MP.
Okay, that's wonderful. Thank you. So all these questions were there. Right now we've addressed them, and I don't see anything more. Yes. Thank you, Bhavna. This was a great one. This was very different perspective. Frankly, we had the earlier ones who worked more towards, like I said, issues of other aspects of
Right.
wildlife and conservation. But communities, and I want to again reiterate the same thing, that working with the communities to support them, because we also believe that the people who protect forests should be helped in some way, and they should be, at ease, or made comfortable enough to work
Absolutely.
on field. So that's what you're doing. I mean, it's a wonderful thing. I'm sure we would be circulating this on YouTube, so those who have missed it can obviously view it on YouTube later. And I think someone says love the persistence and aspect of wildlife conservation. Yeah, that's what. So it's a very different one. I mean, we've done over 70 webinars, but I think no one had this kind of view of working with the people, humans, basically. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, Madhulika, you would.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
So thank you, ma'am, for making today's webinar eventful. And we express our gratitude for your valuable time and for gracing today's session with your kind presence and extensive knowledge. It was
Thank
a
you so
wonderful
much.
experience to have you as a wildlife guest speaker with a deep passion for forest and its conservation. So we definitely look forward to welcome you for our future events. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. It was great
Thanks,
fun.
Bhavana. Same here.
Thank you,
Yeah.
audience.
Thank you.
See you
Yeah.
all in the next webinar.
Yes. Yeah.
Goodbye.